I think we're ready to go.
Okay, hi everybody. Mid-Michigan SAE would like to give you this presentation on the CyberTruck Challenge. And the mission of the CyberTruck Challenge is to help develop the next generation workforce by bringing awareness, excitement, and professional involvement and practicum based upon training of heavy-duty cyber vehicle domain. It also has been set up to help establish a community of interest for heavy vehicle cybersecurity that transcends individual companies or departments and reaches across disciplines and organizations to make a more universal and experienced base of engineers and managers. And we have two speakers today. We're lucky enough to have two. Dr. Jeremy Daly. He has served as an associate professor of mechanical engineering at the University of Tulsa in the past. That was from 2006 to 2019. In 2019, Dr. Daly accepted a position as an associate professor of systems engineering at Colorado State University in Fort Collins, Colorado, where he continues to work on heavy-duty vehicle and cyber security and forensics. He and Carl co-founded the CyberTruck Challenge in 2017. He serves as director for the CyberTruck Challenge, which is a nonprofit organization and actively recruits students to participate in this very unique opportunity. In 2013, Dr. Daly started a technology company called Synercon Technologies LCC that has developed a data extraction tool for heavy vehicle event data recorder information. Law enforcement and crash reconstruction professionals all over the US and Canada use the Synercon Technologies systems for reconstructing crashes involving heavy duties vehicles. And Synercon Technologies was acquired by DG Technologies in 2018. Carl Heimer is a senior technical advisor, Michigan Economic Development Corporation, and founder and partner of Autoimmune. Carl is a senior technical advisor for the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, as well as the founder and partner of Autoimmune. He has been on both the attack and defense side of cyber with roles on red teams, cyber forensics, and basic research. He was a manager for several technical projects, creating secure mobile solutions for both the Department of Defense and consumer markets. And in 2011, Carl joined Bartell to examine and develop a new growth opportunities and founded its Center for Advanced Vehicle Economics to force cybersecurity decisions. Also, he founded the Autoimmune to exclusively address cybersecurity challenge in the automotive space. And with that, we'll have both of our speakers start their presentations. Thank you very much for attending today.
Thank you, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here. Michigan is a particularly good supporter of the CyberTruck Challenge, as you could probably imagine. Like Mark said, my name is Jeremy Daly, and I teach in systems engineering here at Colorado State. So we're recording this. I'm actually in Fort Collins doing this now. And I think with that, I want to introduce Carl to kind of give us a little bit more discussion on the background and the motivation of why we have the CyberTruck Challenge.
Hello, this is Carl. So first off, let's get into some of the market for the transportation domain. Cybersecurity, of course, is an enormous growth market and has been for a little over 20 years now. If you look at the planned growth, and these are not my numbers, it's numbers drawn from a number of economic sources, you see that the global market just in the transportation for cybersecurity gets enormous quickly. And if you consider really that automotive cybersecurity pretty much started a decade ago, and with a slow start, I think these numbers are sobering. If you look at the heavy vehicle market, they started getting really interested in the cybersecurity space a few years after automotive. And when you look at some other domains, maritime, et cetera, they're then a little bit more recent entrants than the heavy vehicles. And so this is a great growth market. This is the kind of place that we really want to attract talent. This is the place where there's great development for new students coming in, as well as re-education of folks within the workspace now. And it's a very important societal market. And Jeremy will get into some slides about what happens if trucking is interrupted later in the slides or later in the deck. But let's just say that if we lose the ability to go from place to place, either as individuals or as freight, it has a substantial impact on our nation and our way of life. Next slide, please. So, can you advance slide, please? So here's pictures of two old people. The guy on the left is a Confederate. His name is Mosby. The guy on the right, everybody knows his name is Abraham Lincoln. So why are we talking about two really old people that have nothing to do with computers? So the story is, one of Lincoln's generals, a brigadier, was in a camp, and it was in southern Pennsylvania. And this guy to the left, Mosby, was infamous for very small, very quick light cavalry raids. And he was able to raid the general's tent and his encampment. He captured the general, he captured his staff, he captured a whole bunch of documents and papers, and he captured some horses and mules. So once the army figured that out, they ran to the president and said, Mr. President, General so-and-so, I don't know who he was, has been captured, as well as his staff, and a bunch of documents about battle plans and some horses and mules. And Lincoln started asking questions about the horses and the mules. And his staff thought that perhaps he misheard, so they emphasized again the loss of the general, etc. And Lincoln went back to asking questions about the horses and the mules. And they kind of pushed back on him, and he said, look, I can make another general anytime I want, but horses cost money, or something like that. So I'm not suggesting that the cybersecurity professionals of tomorrow are, like horses or stubborn as mules or anything like that. I'm more suggesting that there are kinds of assets that you can't make or can't get by just promoting somebody or elevating them or creating a position. There's kinds of assets that take many, many years to grow, to create, to equip. And Lincoln's very practical approach is, I think, something useful for, our country today and our businesses. We have to look at the real sunk costs in creating this capability. Now, Lincoln wasn't just looking at, a horse. He was looking instead at the utility of them. The actual number of horses and mules lost were more than 50. So it's the sort of thing that would have allowed a regiment to march. It was a real big deal. What we want to do is we want to excite the students of today to become the transportation cybersecurity professionals of tomorrow, and to be able to focus those talents on the heavy vehicle domain so that we can have safer systems, better systems, companies that are resistant to cyber attacks, and the people and organizations that depend on deliveries proof that against those attacks. Our approach is not a university program, although we certainly seek to tie into universities. We look at practicality. We look at currency. What is available right now? What are the important topics of today, as well as what are the important topics in the near future? And Jeremy will get into some of the things we're doing with electrical vehicles, et cetera, that are on the horizon. But that currency, that keeping things fresh and relevant for tomorrow are very important. And then the fusion and synthesis of multiple disciplines. If you look at cybersecurity in a network, it looks different than cybersecurity as something that has a strong physical component and that has a lot of dependencies that are outside necessarily the cyber domain. The cyber physical systems are interesting and a distinct problem set within cybersecurity. So the practicality is hands-on. The currency is what is important now and over the next, up to 5 years from now. And then fusion synthesis is understanding the ecosystem in which this transportation cybersecurity domain operates. Next slide, please. So what is the CyberTruck challenge? As I said, it's practicum based. We believe that an important part of learning is very hands-on based. There is a little bit of lecture, but it's not hours of lecture. It's 10, 15 minutes, and then touch a product, get your hands dirty, understand how to interact with it. Then take that into the next bit of the lecture, et cetera, and you go for several days doing this. Talk a little bit, work a little bit, talk a little bit, work a little bit, and then we end with a CapEx or an assessment where there's a set of problems as well as an unconstrained assessment you can do on a real truck. And there's some pictures of some of the real trucks that we've been able to look at because of the amazing support we have from our sponsors. But practicum based, get your hands dirty. Mission and purpose. There is no install base currently, no existing base of cybersecurity professionals for heavy vehicles. And the domain has got nuances and it's different from any other. We want to help develop the next generation workforce by exciting them, by showing them the opportunities, by showing them the really interesting space of what heavy vehicle cybersecurity looks like, get them excited, and then help attach them to the hiring sources, whether they're a company that makes the trucks, whether it's a company that makes products that go on the trucks, or even if it's a government organization that that either is regulatory or helps build things for government departments, etc. But we have a second co-equal purpose, and that is to help foster a community of interest. There's an old adage that goes something like a rising tide lifts all hulls. We believe that if we can get a cross-section of interested parties from OEMs, from suppliers, from academia, from government, to come here and in a very open way discuss the series of threats that are arrayed against our nation and its institutions, and talk about ways that each can help mitigate it or even completely avoid those kinds of cybersecurity threats, everyone will be stronger. And so encouraging that discourse is one of the core twin principles or purposes of the event. So I said before, Jeremy was going to say this, sorry. If we take a look at what happens without trucks, I mean, you can't go to the grocery store without a truck being involved. You might not know it, but there were delivery trucks that went there. And those delivery trucks were fed from a semi, a Class 8. You can't go to a hospital without material that were coming off of a truck. You can't even go to the fuel station without there have been a tanker truck involved pumping fuel into the ground at some point, a couple weeks maybe earlier. And even the U.S. mail, it takes semi trucks to deliver it in between cities, etc. And really everything that we have, our society is built on the just-in-time model. So if you think what would happen if trucks stopped working, and this is a study that the NMFTA commissioned and then published, so I'm borrowing their information. If you look at what happens in the very first day that all the trucks would stop, the hospitals would stop being resupplied, the fuel stations would stop being resupplied, grocery stores, etc. By day 2 or 3, and sometimes you can see this if a surprise blizzard hits, and you can certainly see it in the first days of the COVID crisis, there's no food, there's no toilet paper, there's no water. Hoarding begins, the shortages, because that will make people concerned. It starts to deplete the available cash. If it goes on for a couple of days and it looks like there literally is no fix for the distribution infrastructure, people grab gas cans and start going to fuel stations. And even state organizations or county organizations like garbage collection is going to get interrupted. If it goes long enough, you'll start having rail inefficiencies. By the end of the first week, car travel will mostly stop, and oxygen will be out of supply in hospitals. Because our water is cleaned through, we need energy to clean our water. We need energy to do wastewater management, sanitation, etc. After 2 weeks, water is going to be almost gone and a shortage. And within the first month, we don't have any of those things. We've gone from a first world economy to something very, very primitive. And so this next slide, I'm not sure if I should share it or not. Yeah, okay. By day 60, it's the zombie apocalypse. All right, that's a joke. I don't expect zombies. But if you can imagine what would happen if we literally don't have any of those things that we need to make a modern society, what would happen after a month or two? Our way of life stops. And that really has to do with trucking. So we want to help fix that. What do we do at the CyberTruck Challenge? We teach students how to hack trucks, and we do it in a very practical way. So this is a team, one of the several teams that were at, I think this is the 2019 event. You can see roughly the composition. It has 6 to 8 students. It has several manufacturers, it has suppliers, it has academics, and it also has hackers. These are white hat hackers. They're either cleared or do work for regular companies. They're not people that are going to grab the information and steal it and put it in the dark web or go brief it at hacker conferences. They're here to help the community, help industry make better products. So we also get training from industry experts. Some of them are the OEMs and suppliers themselves. Some of them are the hackers, etc. And because our OEM partners and suppliers are trusting us with their reputation and their products, and are in many cases giving us privileged information about them, their protection is paramount to us. We will do absolutely nothing that destroys the trust that our industry partners show us. And so every person that touches these vehicles, every person that sits on in a briefing or a class has to sign this confidentiality agreement, NDA. Everyone, government officials on down. You'll see that people can't bring their own computers to the event. We supply them, and then we format them. No information leaves with the student. We do provide all the information to the manufacturers or OEMs that supply the vehicle or the product, so that they can use it and take it back to improve their systems. One other thing here, we do have an event camera, and we do have photos. You'll see photos from the event here, but it's an event camera. Nobody can take pictures with their own phones, but anybody can take pictures with the event camera. We then show the sponsors and the equipment providers the photos, and they will decide which ones they will allow to go forward. So any photo you see on here has been curated by the folks who own the equipment.
Thanks, Carl. I want to now dive into what we actually do, right? So we've got a high-level overview, and thanks, Carl, for kind of setting the stage, perhaps maybe scaring us a little bit, but that's okay. When we actually start getting into it, this is the schedule, and I want to show a couple key points. We will end up separating into a couple groups, and you can see the types of conversations that we have, right? So these first lectures are structured by an expert instructor, and they're working the students through different exercises that are hands-on. They run in parallel, so we get more one-on-one time with those instructors. And you can also see that we provide lunch, breakfast, dinner, and that the site doesn't close down until almost 10 o'clock at night. So it's a really packed day on the first couple days. And then Wednesday and Thursday, these really open assessment blocks are there. In fact, oftentimes what we see is teams will work through these different meals. They'll just go grab the meal through the lunch line or the catering line and continue working. And then at the end, we'll have briefings, and each student team will go up onto the stage and actually give a briefing about what they saw, right? Everybody's still under NDA, and the contents then are curated by the OEs who supplied the material, who actually will benefit and could use the information to make their product better. And then what we're hoping to do too is have some outreach for Greater Detroit area, right? So another aspect of this is to promote the life in Michigan as well. So what's it like? I think these pictures show a lot about what we're actually doing there. The students on the left are actively engaged in the hands-on workshops. In the center, you've got the hackers with the intently diving into the truck systems, right? So we have the real vehicles inside on site, and the experiments are taking place. And then on the right, you can see how up close and personal the instruction is, right? So a couple students with an instructor / white hat hacker. Some more photos. The trucks that we use are modern, and so our students are sitting in there actively engaging with the instruments. They're being monitored or kind of observed by industry experts, and the asset owner, we call him the vehicle boss, is able to call off any attacks if they see something that they don't really like, or they've gotten enough. There is ultimate control by that vehicle boss on what the hackers and students can and can't do. We've found that they've been pretty lenient, and fortunately, most of the trucks have been able to resist some basic attacks. So that's good. Kind of in the center bottom, you can see that we go down into the details of the chip and the circuit board, and attaching wires, and these components are also made available. So they don't actually disassemble the truck, but we will provide control units for the students to look at in a more detailed level. Just again, the type of interactions that you'll find with the mentors and the students, right? So this is really helping build that community of interest. All doors are open, engine compartments available, and the trucks are shiny and new. And so it's a fantastic level of support that we get from our OEs. But what we measure, you can also tell a picture with, or the picture of what we measure tells our story. So we started in 2017. We had, I think, 6 colleges available. And you can see in just those 2 years, we grew to over 20. The types of universities that are represented shown here on the right. And we anticipate to continue reaching out, right? We want to have more and more university participation. There will be a practical cap at some point of participation. So we don't anticipate this to grow into the hundreds or thousands, but certainly focus and, between 30 and 40 students is a really good representation, and we get those across the entire country and Canada. You can see the different regions. When we started out, I was at the University of Tulsa, so obviously we brought some of them, some of the Michigan schools there, Virginia Tech, Penn State. But as we grew, of course, more and more states and regions were represented. So this is something that we will see continually expand, I anticipate. But the real merit of the program is in what the students get out of this. And so the chart on the left, right, have you found a mentor, right? One of our primary missions. And you have 96% affirmative. They were able to engage with an industry expert and find somebody that would, work with them and mentor them through some of their career advancement and choices. To me, that's a phenomenal response to our survey there. Next one, has attending this event made you more likely to select a career in this field? And I think that just demonstrating some of the excitement and the challenges associated with heavy vehicle cybersecurity is a very illuminating experience for many students. And so that the process of going through the CyberTruck challenge really opens those students' eyes to what is likely going to be a career path for them. Did you meet people that you potentially would stay in communication with, right? And the answer is yes. right? Resoundingly so. But I think the more specific feedback here is really powerful. So Subhajit, Subhajit's a PhD candidate in computer science. This experience was amazing. Would have never get an opportunity to work with an actual vehicle if it wasn't for CyberTruck Challenge. Subhajit had written some academic articles before, and his excitement there at the CyberTruck Challenge to actually try some of the things that he had theorized was palpable. It was really neat. John Magg, the electrical engineer class of 2019. The biggest benefit for me was probably talking with all the professionals in the industry, talking to them about what they did just affirmed that I want to work in the same field. John Magg now works at Volvo. In one short week, I came together with a range of professional students, hobbyists. We spent 2 days getting a broad crash course in reverse engineering. And with teams mentors, we chose a project or two from ranges of levels that made up the various truck systems. It was intense. I was totally engaged. It was one of the most fantastic weeks of my life. That's pretty high praise. All right, so Zach is a graduate student here in computer science. Our sponsors are really what make this happen. So you can see from the state level organizations to the suppliers, telematics companies, universities. So we really get a good representation across the industry for this. We still want to, we want 100% participation by the OEs. And so we still have a little bit of work to do, but it's a really important cross section. And I think that everybody is enthusiastic about continuing along with this. So what are our plans for the next few years? So obviously 2020 had a challenge with it. We had to cancel the CyberTruck Challenge. We did not envision that a virtual event has quite the same result. And so there just wasn't quite the availability of the trucks to have the 2020 event. But looking forward, we're excited to ramp back up and conduct the event next summer. Some of the things that we're working on right now is expanding our connections with Department of Defense and Department of Energy, because electric vehicle and electric vehicle systems are going to be a really important subject of cybersecurity. The reason for, of course, is in order to actually charge heavy vehicles, there has to be safe and secure communications between the truck itself and the grid because of the energy requirements and the energy transfer rates. We also look at a vehicle to infrastructure, V2I and V2X. And so that composes the smart city. We're going to look at those attack vectors. Are there ways that the designers and implementers of the smart city concepts can benefit from having exposure to something like the CyberTruck Challenge? We always try to stay relevant to current trends. We envision the CyberTruck Challenge to be a trendsetter for schools and academic institutions, where the results and the conversations and the presentations at CyberTruck Challenge will actually form and influence the trajectories of some of the programs that are looking at teaching cybersecurity for truck and truck-like systems. And that's where we look at the college program tie-in. We want to give professors resources that are helpful and relevant to securing these vehicles. We include trailers, right? So here's with a freight carrier, they buy a lot of trucks, but they buy a lot more trailers. And so Old Dominion is a stalwart sponsor. And you can see one of the things that they're interested in is what kind of data is their trailer producing and is it safe? And so some good research has come out and has been inspired through the CyberTruck Challenge that has helped Old Dominion and other trailer owners understand some of the cybersecurity positions that they have. How do universities actually leverage the CyberTruck Challenge? So some, like Walsh College in Michigan, they offer independent study credits for participation. When I was at the University of Tulsa, we integrated the CyberTruck Challenge as part of our lab requirement for a cybersecurity minor. Eastern Michigan, they're evaluating how to leverage some of the content. Colorado State, we've got actively developing programs where we use the CyberTruck Challenge as a lab component. So there's a lot of exciting ideas on how to make the CyberTruck Challenge useful for higher education. And we're off to the races. We're ready to go for 2021. It's going to be held in Warren at the Macomb Community College Sports and Expo Center. And we have already started planning this Detroit Day, and we're still at, obviously we're shoring up sponsorship, and we're interested in additional participation. So Carl and I are both available to discuss and help you understand where we are on conducting the 2021 CyberTruck Challenge. So with that, I want to thank you and open up to any questions you may have.